Hey everybody. Hey, Ayaz, Aslam, and P. Perez. Thanks for joining the stream. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I think we might wait a couple minutes just to see if, just to give people a chance to join as well. Cool. I'm just kind of updating my Instagram so people know that I'm streaming. But yeah, hope you all have had good weekends. Not sure where in the world everyone's from, but hopefully it's either Sunday or I guess Monday, possibly late Sunday night. Oh, what am I going to teach? So we are going to at least start, maybe finish, we'll see what happens, building a landing page from scratch. And I will show you where I got it from and everything. So... All right. Sorry, I just had to share that on Instagram, of course. So let me show you where this is all coming from. Question was landing page using CSS Grid or Flexbox. We might use both. We'll sort of see how it goes. So I'm actually like literally doing this live. I have not built this landing page before. Where the template's from is from this website called frontendmentor.io. And they have a lot of free website templates that you can use. I'm pretty sure it's just like open source. And for free, you can download the starter files, which is, they'll give you like JPEGs, some style guides. They'll give you a copy of the text on the website. And then you can just build it yourself from scratch. And they also do have design files. Like I believe they are sketch files. I don't know if they're XD, but those are $5, which isn't that bad considering you're getting like a nice looking website template. But anyway, on the Frontend Mentor website, if you go to the challenges link, it shows you all the templates you can do. The last time I did one of these live coding things, I think I did this landing page. I did one of those. I think it was this one, Philo landing page. So this time we're just going to do a simple one-page landing page. This one called the Huddle. I'm not sure how they come up with the names, but you know, that's cool. So it shows you the desktop, mobile, and then what I did was I already downloaded the files. And so here's the folder. I don't know if that's too small for you all to see, but every time you download one of the templates from them, they give you basically everything you need. So in the design folder, they have images that have the design. So you can see what the end result is supposed to look like on desktop as well as mobile. And just to explain, like usually at my job, this is kind of what I do. I build websites. And generally from the designer, I'll get a sketch file or an Adobe XD file. Because I'm just getting the free templates from Frontend Mentor, I only am going to be working off JPEGs. So it's not exactly the same situation as it would be in the real world, but it's pretty close. Obviously, if you're doing something like this for your job, you'd hope that the designer would give you the actual design files. But also here they have an images folder, and they have just all the different SVGs and that make up the design. So it's probably like, these images, probably the background as well. So we'll kind of get into that as we start this. So first thing is I have created a GitHub repository just for this. So once this is done, you can actually go to my GitHub and see the files for yourself. But I just have, it's all blank except for an index.html, which is blank right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the image files from the template and let's make a new folder. I'll just say images and we'll just paste them in there. We're going to do a pretty simple setup for this website. So let's see. So here we have Visual Studio Code, VS Code. It's my code editor choice right now. And you can see it is empty except for the index.html file and then this image folder that I just showed you. And there's a README, but that's just kind of for GitHub, so you don't really need to worry about that right now. So we're literally just going to start from scratch. So let's just start coding this out. And one thing that I started doing recently is using this Emmet extension for VS Code. If you notice, I didn't have to type all this stuff out. I just typed exclamation point, and then you can see it says Emmet abbreviation. So if you just type one exclamation point, press enter, it will load up your index.html file with all the markup that you need. So it's kind of a big time saver. You can do other things as well when you're creating divs or other elements. I think, let's say I want to make a header, and I want it to have a class of header. This is just for an example. All you have to do is, you don't have to type the angle brackets, just start typing header or whatever element you want. I could say div class test. So this is just a pretty handy tool that I didn't use for a really long time, but I found it pretty helpful. And so we got our index.html file, and then we're also going to be making, let me make a Sass. I'll make a Sass folder. Let's be a little organized here. Actually, let's just call it CSS. And I'm just gonna go through my workflow right now. I'm just trying to set up all the files and folders. So in the CSS folder, we will create our Sass files. So we'll start with, let's just say style.scss. So you can see VS Code recognized it's a Sass file and it gave it the Sass little logo image thing. And then what I usually try to do is split up my Sass files. So I don't have everything just one really long, giant, CSS file, because for organizational purposes, it's a bit easier if you have multiple files. And let me show you what I mean. So one file I tend to make is I'll make a global.scss. And I'm not sure if I'm actually going to end up using all of these different files, but I just kind of wanted to show you. And we'll do fonts, and let's do colors as well. We don't want to go too crazy, and then what happens here is you have your style.scss file, and you can do this thing called import, and you can import all the other SCSS files, and I believe these are called partials, into your main style file. So we'll say global. Oh, I forgot one thing actually. You want to, when you're naming your partial Sass files, you want to have an underscore at the beginning, and I'll show you why that's a good idea. So, okay, so I underscored all the other Sass files. So that means that when I'm trying to import the global file, I just have to type global. I don't have to type global.scss. So it's just a little time saver thing. Then we'll do fonts, and then we'll do colors. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did a little duplication thing here. You just do that by typing Control D. So I don't know all the hotkeys in VS Code, but I'm getting there. So let's just make sure this works. So in global, I'm just gonna make up, something. And then what we want to do is, if you haven't worked with Sass before, you have to actually compile Sass back to CSS. And usually I will use Gulp to handle all that stuff. But another new tool I realized that I recently found out about is there's an extension that I'm using called the Live Sass extension. Let me see if I can find it for you really quick. Live Sass. So Live Sass, this one, Live Sass compiler. I already have it installed, but this is really helpful because you can see at the bottom of my screen, and you should be able to see that, it says watch Sass. That means that it has detected that I have Sass files and it will automatically compile it to CSS for me. So I don't have to use gulp or anything like that. So let's just click that and you can see it's running some stuff. And on the left side, it has created the CSS file. So let's open that up, and that indeed has my sort of test style that I wrote up in global. And this is because this is the final compiled CSS file. You don't want to make any changes here because it's just going to get overwritten next time next time you compile your Sass. So the next thing I want to do is I want to locally run my website, and usually there's something in VS Code that also does that, but I don't see that. So I think what we can do is Yahoo! Oh, hey, Two Birds of Passage, thanks for subscribing. So I think it's HTTP server. Oops, that's wrong. There we go. Okay, so HTTP-server, that's just something you can use. It's an NPM package you can install, and it will just run your website locally for you. So it runs from 127.0.0 port 8080. Let me just zoom in here, and this is blank because we haven't done anything yet. Don't worry, it's not going to stay blank forever. Okay, cool. So let's see. Okay, let's go back to our little design files here. So again, here's the desktop view of this website we're going to make, and then here is the mobile view. So let me actually just double check the images that I have. Okay. Okay, so it looks like these two, you can't see it, but the top images are just the background SVGs. So it's like these pink things. So what it looks like we're going to be doing is just having a solid purple background. Yeah, it's a purple color. And the SVGs are just this pink image on top, which is good because if you say had this whole background image as like a JPEG or something, it would take up way more space on your website, and that's not good. So one really good benefit of using SVGs is that they're pretty small file size wise, and you can combine them with background colors so that, you know, it still looks cool and stuff. So you can see, you know, these SVGs are 2 and 3K, so that's kind of nothing. Let's see what this one is. So this one looks like it's the image just on the homepage, like that. So cool. And then logo is probably just that top. I'm assuming it's that top white logo up here. Cool. Now let's see what else we got here. Yeah, setting up, I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing to do for website stuff, but it's something that you just kind of got to do. Let me just open the, open the style guide file, because they have, actually we should open their index.html file. This is not the index.html file that I'm going to be using, but they include it in the templates. It's helpful because they have the copy, so you can just kind of copy and paste that. So we'll leave that there for now. And then I also want to open this style guide file. So it looks like primary. Okay, so they're giving you a violet color in HSL. I usually use like hex colors for HTML, but I believe I can use HSL as well. And we'll have to get some fonts from Google Fonts, so we'll go over doing that. So Poppins font is probably that main, this font right here. And then it looked like Open Sans is the other one. So it's just kind of the regular body copy. And that's something that most websites have in their designs. You'll have, you know, one main sort of title font that looks different from the body copy that you have. So, and then, okay, for the social icons, you can use a font icon library. I've used Font Awesome before. Haven't looked at the other ones, but that looks pretty good. So one thing that I usually do when I'm just starting out is, let's open our index.html file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a little split screen thing here. And I'm just using IrfanView for my image viewer. It's a very simple image viewer. Okay, so usually what I like to do is I kind of look at the, okay, I can't do that. There we go. Let's try this. Sorry guys, this is the first stream that I've done in a while, so yeah. Still working out some of the bugs. Let's see. Okay. So when I'm building a website, what I usually like to do is I like to kind of look at how the design is, and then I'm just going to open this separately. And design. Here we go. Okay, now I won't need to switch between them as much. Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you Subender and Mandeep. Yeah, trying my best. But yeah, I'm hoping that this will be a more regular occurrence, you know, every week or something like that. So let's see. Okay, so when I'm building a website from scratch, what I usually do is I'll look at the design and I will kind of try to guess what I think the markup needs to be. So based on the design, we can kind of see the different sections of the site, right? So you have your header up here, you have an image on the left for desktop, and then you have some text on the right. And then at the bottom, you have some social icons. And that's kind of it. This website's, a really simple landing page. And then it has this register button here, which if this was a real website, clicking it would direct you to another website, probably with some kind of form or something. And let's compare the mobile design as well. So a lot of times what you may have noticed is that for mobile designs, it'll kind of take the same content you have on your desktop and then it'll stack them, meaning instead of being side by side, like image on the left, content on the right, like you have on desktop, on mobile, everything is stacked one underneath the other. So you have your header at the top, right below that you have the image, and then below the image you have the text with the little button, and then the social icons at the bottom. So what we'll probably do is we will use CSS Grid to kind of handle how the design changes between desktop and mobile. And then I guess I could use Flexbox for some of the things, maybe for the social icons at the bottom. It is possible to do, you can do almost anything in Flexbox that you can with CSS Grid, not everything. And there's actually some things that Flexbox can do that CSS Grid actually can't really do. But generally, I think CSS Grid is a good way to kind of build out the general template of your website. So let's start doing that here. So we'll just start with the header. And I'm just going to do header. And for Huddle, the name of this fictional company, we're going to use an H1 tag. And then we'll add the logo in a little bit later. But kind of what I like to do right now is just kind of mark out all the different sections of the website. Then in the header, you have your main content. So we'll do main. And I'm just still in the habit of using these angle brackets. So I'm not necessarily going to use the Emmet shortcuts all the time. But on the main tag, we really just have two sections. So maybe we'll do section, and then we'll do class equals, we'll just say hero image. Hero image. And, everyone, if you ask 10 different developers to build this website, everyone would build it a different way. So there's almost never just one right way to build a website. Everyone has their own preferences. And ultimately, I just think if you write your code in a way that makes sense for either you later on down the line if you have to go back and make some edits, or for another developer to come back and work on your website, as long as they can understand how you've organized your files and how you've organized your code, then I think that's good. So I'm just typing in this sort of test copy, hero text. We'll just say text. Cool. What grid can't do? So like for basically, just really quickly, CSS grid, you kind of create your template. So you say, okay, I want, 2 rows of 4 columns. But sometimes what happens is if you have an actual website, let's say you had a grid of like 4 photos, and then your client's like, well, I want to add 1 more photo. So now you have 1 extra photo, what's that going to happen? And for Flexbox, it's a little more flexible, if you don't mind the pun. And if the number of images or blocks changes, you can actually make it kind of center nicely. But if it would be centered, it would kind of be breaking your sort of 4-column layout that you had. So in that sense, Flexbox is a little more flexible. CSS Grid can't break the template because it has to stick to what the template is that you've created. So basically, Flexbox in some ways you could say is more maybe content first, in terms of it'll just fit your content nicely. CSS Grid, you create your grid templates and you kind of force your content to conform to that grid. Westboss actually has a really good and free course on CSS Grid and Flexbox. So if you want to brush up on those or learn those, I would recommend that. It's the best way to learn. You love how I took so much initiative for Millie. Thanks. For those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, there's this longtime Instagrammer who's also a web developer named Millie. And basically she had been cloned by all these like weird Bitcoin Forex trading like spam accounts. So meaning they were like copying all her actual photos. So she was trying to report them. And they in turn apparently reported her to Instagram saying that she was a spam account, which is not true. And what Instagram did was basically just shut down all the accounts, including Millie's actual account. And so this has been at least 2, maybe 3 weeks. And she hasn't heard anything. She hasn't gotten any support from Instagram or Facebook. So I don't know. We've just been trying to help her. This other Instagrammer, Glenn Codes, he actually started a change.org petition to try to petition Instagram to bring her account back. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'm a little cynical, but I have a feeling that it's just going to be like that for maybe 6 months, and then suddenly one day she'll get her account back, and they won't have any kind of apology or anything. But that's just me. But anyway, so that was the explanation for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, which if you don't, you might want to, because I post like a lot of content on Instagram. Like sometimes I'll do Q&As for any questions you might have if you're learning, or I'll just post different like mini tips. But anyway, yeah, it's on Instagram. My account name is the Coder. So, okay, let's get back to this website. So where was I? Okay, I had created all the different sections of the content. Cool. Sue Vendor, you're also here from Instagram. Awesome. So right now I haven't done any styles or anything, but just for the heck of it, let's see what we got here. Let me try to zoom in so you can see everything that I'm doing. I'm not going to use JavaScript, so I'm just going to close that up. But you can see, we'll zoom in a little bit for now. This is really just literally the markup that I made. There's no cool styling or anything. So let's see, what's the next thing that we want to do? Oh yeah, we need to get this color here. So kind of going back again to my Sass files, I created a colors.sass file. So we're just going to say purple, and this is using Sass variables, which is cool. And I'm not going to use that HSL stuff. I'm just going to sort of cheat. So Irfan View is telling me this purple color is 674BB1. So 674BB1. I think that's really the only color I need because these pink things are just SVGs. Okay, so in Sass, what this does is if you have a $, it makes it a Sass variable, which means that you can reuse it in your code, which is great. And I need to make one more Sass file for this homepage. I think because this page is so small, I'm just going to have one Sass file for the page, underscore homepage.scss. But usually, you know, for like a website that has multiple templates and different kinds of pages, I'll usually create a different file for, you know, every kind of module or, you know, even individual pages. But let's go, let's see here. Okay, so back in index. So this background, let's do the background first because colors always look nice, right? So I think I'm just going to add the background color to the actual body because everything's, like all these elements are in the body. So let's do that. And, oh, I forgot actually. There's a couple, there's a few sort of global styles that are kind of good to do. I'm going to try to do this from memory. I think it is every element, and then I'm going to have to look this up. This is terrible, but box sizing, border box. Okay, let's look up and see where. Oh, this will make sense in a second. Let's see. So what I'm trying to do is generally in your CSS, you want to, yeah, here we go. Oh, so I sort of did it right. Okay, I need the before and afters. So what this does is box sizing border box means that you know, you can add margin and padding to elements. It means that if you add padding to an element, it will not add width or height to the element. So let's say you have an element that was 500 pixels wide. Then you added a padding on the left and the right sides of 20 pixels. If you don't have this turned on, it's going to kind of mess up the width, and the width would be like 500 plus like the 20 pixels. Whereas if you have box sizing border box set, that means that you will have the padding of 20 pixels on left and right, but the total width is going to be 500 pixels. And it's just kind of a better, I think, more intuitive way of doing that. So this is kind of one of the default things that you want to have set. So if you use something like, I think there's boilerplates like normalize. If you add those to your websites, it'll kind of have styles like these built in. So let's not worry about that. Let's go back to our home page. So we'll say body, background color, and that variable we made was purple. So, I think also all the text is white, so let's just do this as well. Color is white. Okay, let's see how that worked. Oh, oh boy, I promise I know how to code. I forgot some pretty basic stuff here. So, let's just add a title here. What was it called? Huddle landing page. I forgot to include my styles. Let's see. So what you want to do is this right? Guys, I promise I know how to code. I'm going to do CSS style.css. I think that's right. Something's not right. Okay, here's their style. Oh, okay. Oh, why didn't it? It didn't take my homepage styles. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't add it here. So every time you create a new Sass file, you have to add it in your main Sass file. Okay, so you can see every time I do something, it kind of updates itself at the bottom here. See? Okay, let's try that again. Still not working. What did I do? That seems right. I'm confused right now. Let's see. So I guess this goes to show you that even if you've been doing web dev for years, like I have, there's still sometimes cases that you forget the basics. Okay. Let's see. Go back to index. Oh, yeah. The REL thing is a thing. There we go. Oh my gosh, it worked. That's basically the story of web development. It's like something's not working. You're like, why the heck is this not working? And then you do some small thing that you forgot, and then it works, and you're like, ah. Let's see, Lewis Hughes. Oh yes, thank you, Ayaz. I didn't include an HTML. And yeah, style sheet. Lewis Hughes, if you got a project and you needed it so that people can create posts, comment, and share, how do you go about doing that? That's a pretty complex functionality that I unfortunately cannot really tell you how to do it. But for creating posts and commenting, you just need some kind of database or something and create forms so that if you wanted to create a post, you'd sort of save that data. It's kind of how WordPress works. And then every time someone leaves a comment, that would be saved in your database as a comment. This is a very basic way of how that would work. I hope that helps. Okay, let's see. You know, when I was starting this, when I was like deciding to make this one-page landing page, I was thinking to myself, I can totally make this in like one sitting. But we're like maybe 35 minutes into the stream and like I've just added the background color. So this might have to be 2 streams. We'll see. I mean, either way, I think it's kind of fun to just build websites and stuff. So hopefully it's helpful for you all. Okay, so actually there's some more setup stuff that I forgot to do. Okay, so for Google Fonts, we need to add that. Oops. For Google Fonts, we want to add in another link thing, a link element, and a style sheet, and then href is going to be something in Google Fonts. And let me actually just show you how this would be done. Yeah, if you haven't used Google Fonts before, they're really good because they have a ton of free fonts. And all you end up doing is load actually just CSS files from their site. Let's see. I'm just opening the style notes again. So the fonts we're using are Poppins and Open Sans. So Poppins. So here's Poppins. Wait, I want to add it. So you can see when I click that add, it kind of opens it down there. And I want to customize it because I don't want to have like all the weights because that will add more loading time to stuff. So I think for Poppins, and I'm just kind of reading this style guide here. So for Poppins, it's saying weights are 400 and 700. And then for Open Sans, it's just weight 400. So we will make sure that we do that. So for Poppins, it's 400 and 700. So we're just going to check those two. And then we also want to add Open Sans. We'll add that, and just want to make sure that I only have 400 for Open Sans. Okay, cool. So 400 for Open Sans, 400 and 700. 700 is bold for Poppins. Load time is moderate. I guess that's good enough for me. And then this is on the Customize tab. If you go back to the Embed tab, all you have to do is copy this into your HTML. So we'll just kind of replace what I started typing there. I don't know what that display swap thing means, but we'll just keep it there because I guess it was there. So you can see here, it's loading the CSS file from Google Fonts, and you can see these are just query strings. So its family is Open Sans and also Poppins. And then Poppins has the extra weights that you added. I'm assuming by default it just comes with just 400. So that's good. And then the next thing you want to do to actually use the fonts is you specify it in CSS. So the font names are just like this, Poppins and Open Sans like that. So here's where I do another little trick in my Sass file. So I have a font Sass file. So I'm going to create another variable, and I'll say font primary, or let's just say font title. That's a little more descriptive, right? And that would be Poppins, and then we'll just do, sans serif. And then for our regular, we'll just call this font body, and we'll do Open Sans and sans serif. Let's just double check and make sure I did that correctly. Yeah, Poppins, Open Sans with a space. So I think we're good to go for that. Let's go back here. And then we need to then denote these fonts in, let's start in our globals. So if you remember, Huddle font is going to be using Poppins. And I think that's the only, it looks like it's the only place on that site doing that. Sorry, let me just look at this. Oh, I guess thank you for watching. That does seem very late, but yeah, you can catch the replay on YouTube. It should be there after this stream is done. Oh yeah, Leo Flame. If I only type link, it'll create code. Yeah, I think that's right. I just didn't do that, but let's see. Link. Oh, look at that. Wow, man. This Emmet extension is pretty awesome. Oh, and Lewis, you were asking where do I get these designs from? They're from frontendmentor.io. And they have a whole bunch of different designs. So if you go to frontendmentor.io, I'll link it in the YouTube description, but I really like them because they're just a free place you can get pretty good website designs for free, or for $5 if you want the design file. But I'm just kind of working off of the free version where you get JPEGs and stuff. But let's see. Okay, so we want to kind of set our headline title, font. So we'll go H1 because that was the H1 tag. And we'll go font family, and then we'll type in font title, I believe it was called. Whoa, looks like I'm missing something. Undefined variable font title. Oh, that's because, let me show you why. I put fonts and colors before the global style, so I actually I'm assuming the global Sass file is going to use some of the stuff from font and color. So I actually want it to be after. So let's save that, see if this error goes away. Okay, has a success message. And there we go. So this is the Poppins font here. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we want to add that little logo file. Oh yeah, I forgot the favicon. Let's see. Okay. So the favicon is another link thing. Link. Oh, look at that. Man, this thing's awesome. The downside is I'm going to completely forget how to do everything because Emmett's just doing everything for me. Okay, so in the image folder, we have the favicon here. So we'll just do this. I hope this works. Let's see if it works. I don't see a favicon showing up. Oh, this is a shortcut icon. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done this because I'm working with like some kind of CMS that will sort of do all this stuff for you. Let's try a link. Well, we'll go back and check on that if it's not working. It's not that I've found that favicons take a while to like load for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But anyway, so we'll go back here to our header. Okay, so we have this icon here, and there's a couple ways that you can add the icon. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a before pseudo element to the h1 tag. So before, and this is where I'm going to load the that icon. So because it's a pseudo element, you need this content thing here. Background image, we'll just do this here. Logo. And then let's save that for now. What size was this? I'm just gonna kind of guesstimate. It's about 40 by 32, roughly. So we'll say 40 width. And we're also going to do, actually, no, I just thought of a slightly easier way to do this. We're going to not use a pseudo element, but do background image. But then we want to, let me just show you what that would look like if I didn't style it anymore. So then it's like, what's going on? Oh, the whole thing is part of the icon. So that means I actually don't need this text at all. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like it is a good idea to have text, especially for like accessibility purposes, but maybe that's just me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this as like that. Obviously, that's not what we want it to look like. Background size, let's say 40 pixels, 30 pixels. So let me show you what that does. Oh, that's way too small. Oh, because it was including the whole text. Let's see. Sorry, let's do a little trial and error here. Background size is, okay, so I need to find the actual width of this logo thing. So the whole width of this is roughly 200. So let's say background size is 200. I'll show you what I'm going to do. Background size is 200. And then I'm going to say background position. We want it to be on the left side. So we'll say left and then center. And then we want to turn off the repeat. There we go. And then what I'm trying to do is figure out if I can sort of crop out the text thing. You know, I don't know if I can. I'm gonna have to go back using this as a pseudo element again. So we'll do this. And we're gonna do width is 40 pixels, height is 32 pixels, and then position absolute. Oh, and then content. Okay, so now we can see that there's something here. So what then I'm going to do is I'll add some padding on the left of, let's just try 50 pixels. And then what I want to do is, I have this padding, so the text is going to be kind of pushed over a bit, but I want the background image, which is this icon, to be all the way on the left. So that's why I added I absolutely positioned the before pseudo element and then made it positioned on the left. Let's see. So let me just save that for now. Sayeda, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Can't we just use an image tag for the logo? Yeah, we totally could. Maybe I should do that. But I guess there's just, multiple ways of building different things. So, I forgot the padding. Padding left is 50 pixels. Let's see. I'll just say 50 for that, for the 50 width on that pseudo element. Okay, it looks like I think my font size needs to be different too. Okay, I'm looking back at the style guide. It doesn't actually give you any font sizes, so we will just eyeball it. So let's say this is about 34 pixels tall. So let's add that style in there. Font size. I said 40 pixels, right? Cool. I'm sorry, 34. Wow, I have a terrible memory. 34 pixels. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure this is centered. So I'm going to set the line height to 1, which means the line height will match the text height. So it means it'll be 34 pixels. So it'll just be a little more same height. Okay, cool. But yeah, Sayeda, I think your question is pretty valid. We could just add the image as, just do the logo as like the image, which is probably what the original designer had in mind. So if we did that, it would be image source, image, and then logo. And I think the width was 100 or 200. And we'll add the alt tag of Huddle. Okay, that might have been easier. So I think I was overcomplicating it unnecessarily. So yeah, thanks for that comment. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is let's kind of add those SVG backgrounds to the body. So on the homepage, body. So body background is color. I'm sorry, body has a background color of purple. And then we're going to add a background image of the SVG file that we had. So in the image folder, and it's going to be, let's do background mobile first. Oh, P. Perez. Oh, Pat, you are a Instagram follower. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to kind of figure out like what's the best time to do streams like this. Maybe I'll sort of try to stagger them or do them at different times, because I know that there's people living in different parts of the world in different time zones. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. And then background size. I guess we can do cover, background repeat, no repeat, background position. We'll just do center. Okay, woohoo! Look at that. So this is this background, the pink stuff, and this is actually looks very similar to the desktop one. No, it is different. That looks pretty nice. So they gave us two different images, two different background images. So one for mobile and one for desktop. And what we want to do is we're going to have to start doing some media queries for that, so that we can load the desktop background image when the device kind of reaches a certain width. So for that, we'll do media. Oh, look at that. Oh, interesting. So for media queries, what I usually do is I just use min width. And then we'll just say 640 pixels. So that means starting at a minimum width of 640 pixels and up to infinity, we will load these for desktop styles. So if you can see this background change. So if we get smaller, it loads the mobile background. And as we get bigger than 640 pixels, it loads the desktop one. And this one looks a bit different. It might be because, this looks different from, I think maybe it's just because we don't have enough content to like make it tall enough to fit the whole image in there. So we're not going to worry about that right now, because as we add more content, it'll sort of show everything. So that's kind of a very brief description of how media queries work. Let's see. What's the next thing we want to do? All right, so we got our title. We got our background image. And then another thing that I try to do when I start out is add some kind of padding and stuff. So again, I'm just kind of eyeballing here, but there's about a 60 pixel space between the top of the title and the edge. So that's top spacing of 60. Let's see how much we got on the left and the right side. So it looks like that's about 80 pixels. So we can say we have 60 pixels of space on top, 80 pixels on the left and the right. Let's see if that's actually the case. It should be the case. Yeah, it's about 80. And then the bottom looks like there's less than there was on the top. Let's see. Yeah, it's only 40, it looks like. So we got 60 on the top, 80 on the left and right, and then 40 pixels of space on the bottom. So what I will do for that is I'll add those properties to the body as well. And I usually like to add margin and padding first. That's just kind of how I prioritize my CSS styles. But we'll do padding. So on the top was, I believe we said 60 pixels, 80 pixels on the right, 40 pixels on the bottom, and then another 80 on the left. And let's just make sure this works. Looks like it's working. So DevTools is like your best friend when you're building stuff. So you can see here 60 on the top, 40 on the bottom, 80 on the left and the right. So that looks good. Because I think this looks smaller than 100. Well, it's at 100%, but It's kind of small. Oh, it's because I've zoomed in here. Oops. I'll stay zoomed in there, but let's zoom to regular here. There we go. Now it's all matching. I kind of zoomed in so you could sort of see everything, but maybe we'll just keep at the same zoom as the image so we don't confuse ourselves any more than we have already. Okay, so the next thing we actually want to do is we want to do the responsive padding. So we added padding, but that was actually the desktop stuff. So let's see what the padding is going to be for our mobile. So again, eyeballing, it's about, let's say 70 on the top. Looks like it might be the same on the bottom. 80 on the bottom. We'll just do 70 for both. And then on the left and the right, it looks like it's going to be 40. So 70 on top and bottom and 40 on left and right for mobile. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to use our media query here. So I'm just going to copy the padding that I added originally because we only want this padding for the desktop widths. And then we'll replace this with the values for our mobile padding. So I think I said 70 top, 40 on the left and the right. So 70 there. Let's reload the page and we'll kind of bring this down. So 70 on top. It seems like a lot, don't you think? Did I do this wrong? No, it's 70. Oh, there's a margin of 8. That's probably because it is built into the browser. Yeah. So this is another reason why using boilerplates like normalize or I think it's called reset.css. There's a few of them. It's because like every browser comes with some kind of preset styles, and that can be helpful for things like, I don't know, forms or other elements, just because if the styles aren't working, you know, you have some sort of fallback styles. But the trouble is it kind of changes browser to browser. So we're just going to kind of add some reset things here. We'll say margin of 0. Also, we're going to say just padding of 0. Because we know that this padding of 0 will be overwritten by the padding that we've added in our homepage.css. So let's try that. Okay, so yeah, we have our padding here. There's 0 margin now. So let's check this out. Okay, so you can see it is changing as we go bigger than 640, which is just what we want. Cool. Okay. All right. So we have the header and the background image down. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to do the left and the right stuff. So image on the left and text on the right for desktop. And then on mobile, we have the image on the top and the text on the bottom. So let's do some CSS grid for that. Woohoo. I know it's what everyone was looking forward to, right? So if we go back to our markup, let's see what we got. I created a hero image for the image and then hero text for the text. So let's just start kind of building out those styles. So hero image is this one, hero text is there. And then if we're going to use CSS grid, we want to have our parent element, which is just the main tag. And that is where you add the display grid. And we'll just say we'll use grid for maybe, let me think. We really don't need it for mobile because it's just stacking. Because you can see here with this sort of placeholder text I added, image and text, and the image is already on top of the text. So that's kind of like, we don't need to use CSS grid for mobile necessarily. So I'm just going to start turning grid on at the, although technically 640 is really where tablet starts. So let's say that we're going to say usually 1024 is your usual where desktop starts. So we're just going to give mobile and tablet the same styles. So this is where we turn the grid on. So we're only going to use CSS grid for our desktop widths, which means we're going to do this. We'll just kind of pre-add the media query for desktop down here. So if you haven't used CSS grid before, just a very basic explanation of how it works is you have your elements and you want these two elements, the hero image and the hero text, to be part of the grid. But you need a parent element to actually set, to turn on the CSS grid, display grid. So let's actually see what happens here when I reload. So you can see display grid. And Firefox has this kind of cool thing where it has a grid sort of inspector. And we haven't added any styles here yet. But, okay, so back in the parent element, we also want to kind of set up the template. So grid template columns. And let's go back to the design really quick. Looks like they are not of equal size. So it looks like the image is about 700 pixels wide, and the text is going to be about 600 wide. So usually, let's see. Usually we would do something like 1FR, 1FR. So this would give you a template of 2 columns of the same width. FR means fractional unit, which is kind of like a ratio thing. So the numbers mean that it'll be that sort of 1 FR unit. So if you have 1 FR for everything, they're going to be the same width. Let's say if I made the first one 2 FR, it means that the first column would be twice as wide as the second column. But let's do 1 FR for now. And then we'll do, there's a couple ways you can do it. This is a pretty simple layout, so I think I'm just going to, let's see what we got here now. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let me zoom in again. Whoops. Okay, so you can probably see now that the image and the text are next to each other, and this is because of grid, and it's because I added that display grid, and then I added the grid template columns of 2 columns each. And then if I take the width down to mobile width, then they kind of stack one under the other. So, I mean, that's a pretty simple grid, but it's really not too crazy to set up. You know, just these 2 lines of code. I am using CSS grid and a media query. So let's, I know that they're different widths. It's like 700 for the image, 600 for the text, but let's just leave it equal for now. Let's just kind of load up our content in here. So let's load that image, and I believe it's this image mockups thing. And then let's take the copy as well. Okay, so build the community your fans will love, yada yada. So I'm just copying the text from the Frontend Mentor.io. They give you this index file with all the copy, so I'm just really just copying it over. So if you download one of their designs, you'll have all these files that I've been working off of. So build the community your fans will love. I guess we'll make this the H1 now. It's like the title of the page. Let me just make sure I don't have any leftover H1 styles up here. Oh, there we go. So we're just going to delete that because we're not using it anymore. Right? Yeah. Let's make sure I didn't break anything. Okay. Yay! Here's the image. Okay, so I'm just kind of zooming out again. So it looks like the image is already 700 pixels. but it's kind of taking up like a lot of space. And it looks like it's not getting like narrower. So let's see. What do I want to do? I think I need to set a... Geez. I want to create... I think I need to set the grid styles on each section. Let's see. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Okay, guys. I'm going to show you how the sausage is made. CSS grid. What I'm trying to look up is I want to figure out how I want the image to have a max width of, X pixels. But the problem is right now it's set at, 709 pixels, which is the size of the image. But I want it to be kind of like half and half pretty much. So that's what I'm trying to look up right now. Because I set the template to be 1FR, 1FR. So hypothetically, they would be equal, but they are not. So let's say CSS grid columns equal with image. Okay, this looks promising. Auto sizing grid, autofill versus autofit. Let's see. Okay, so they set up their grid columns here. Okay, this is, I think, what I need. We need to specify minimum width for the columns, making sure they don't get too narrow. We can use that using a min-max function. So min-max means the column will be at least 250 pixels wide, and then max will be 1FR. So... And then to achieve wrapping, we can use autofit or autofill. So let's try this. Autofit, min-max 250 and 150. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it looks like they are equal widths. I think actually what I need to do is, it looks like the image is overflowing. So if I just add a hero image and then the image tag inside it width of 100%, I think that should fix it. There we go. So let's kind of look back at what I did. Let's see how this works. So in the main, I said grid template columns repeat. So repeat means, let's say if I wanted 3 columns, I would say repeat, and then instead of autofit, I'd say 3. But then min-max. So because I have 2 columns, I can actually say repeat 2, I think. Yeah. So 2 columns, and then for each column, this is what the width would be. So before I just had 1FR. Now I'm going to say, okay, the min-max is going to be at least 250 pixels, and then max will be 1FR, which means that it's going to be at most 50-50% for each one. But then the text is not going to go less than 250 pixels wide, which is kind of what I want. Yeah, so this looks a lot better. It looks like there's also some padding. Oh, hello, Gerby Go. Sorry, hopefully, not sure how to say that. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Let's add some padding around the text here. So it's about 60 pixels. And then originally there was a global padding of 80 pixels. And then let's just see how wide this is. So it's about 80. So I think what I'm going to do is, if we're assuming this is all in one container, yeah, so it's like it's 80 pixels on the left and the right side. But on top of that, there's a little bit of space in the text. But that could just be for how the text wrapped. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm only going to add a left padding to this text of roughly 60 pixels. So hopefully that makes sense, because what we're trying to do is, right, you can see here that they're right up against each other and we just want to add some more space. So that is the, where's the index.html file? That's the hero text element. So if we go back to homepage, in the hero text element, we're going to say for desktop widths, padding left of 60 pixels. Oops. Save. Okay. See, that looks so much better. And I did notice that this kind of goes really big on mobile, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. So next thing we want to do is we want to make our fonts the open sans that I think we were using. Actually, I think this one, Build the Community, that one is probably the Poppins font. So let's do that one first. Okay, so again, we're just kind of eyeballing the font size. This is about 32 pixels tall. So let's set that font size of the what is now our H1 tag. So we'll go back to homepage. And, you know, do I want to nest it in the hero text element? Like, I'm not really sure. You don't want to nest too much. I think because this is a simple website, we'll just have it in its own thing. So font family, and again, we're going to use that variable that we created in fonts. So it's going to be font title. So font family will be font title. Oops. Then font size is, what did we say, 32 pixels, I think. Another thing I sort of try to do globally is I just kind of add like a global line height. So 1.3. So that means that it'll change if the font size gets bigger, the line height will be a little bit bigger too. So it's just kind of an easy way that I make sure there's a little bit of spacing in all my text. So font size 32. I believe the font weight of this might be bold. Actually, I'm trying to see if this, I don't know if that's Poppins. It might actually be Open Sans, but it's just bold. Let's just see how it looks. How similar does that look to this? Yahoo! It looks a bit, oh, thanks for subscribing. Oh, I was looking the wrong way earlier. So Big Ben GH, thanks for the follow. Also, thank you, Roderick Putnam, for following as well. Yeah, much appreciated. I think this is actually Open Sans, guys. So that's kind of funny. Because like we downloaded the Poppins font, but then if the logo is a whole image, then like Poppins doesn't actually exist on this page at all, and we didn't even need to download it from Google Fonts. But anyway, so if that H1 is actually Open Sans, we'll just do font body instead. So, and then font weight is bold, so that is 700. Let's reload. Oh, that doesn't look right at all. Okay. I guess it just looks, I guess the Poppins font just kind of looks different. So go back to font title. Yeah, I don't know, y'all. Maybe it is not bold. So let's try font weight 400. That's not right either. We'll keep it at bold. And it looks like the line height is a bit bigger too. But personally, I think that's a lot of spacing, because it's like the same space as there is between the title and the body copy of this section. So I feel like it kind of looks better this way. No offense to the designer. Let's just keep it this way. Now this body copy here is Open Sans. Let's kind of estimate what the size of this is. It's about, this is 12, but it looks bigger than 12. I think it's probably, yeah, it's probably 14 or 16. So let's do this. And because this is a body copy, I'm just going to make this kind of the default font styles. So I'm going to go back into global. And I know that I added a lot of styles on the body tag on the home page, but I'm just assuming, you know, let's say this landing page is like part of a multi-page website. Not every page probably wants this purple background. So there's some styles that I'm adding in the body tag globally that I'm assuming would be on all pages. And I think things like basic styles like the font family and the font size, I think should be global styles. So hope that makes sense. What was it? Font body? Font size, let's just say 16 pixels. Okay, so you can see now the font looks good. Looks like there's a little more spacing between the lines here than there are here. So let's do, I'm just gonna add a little more line height by default. Let's see if that helps. I was actually affecting the H1 line height, I think. Let's add that line height on the homepage style. So under hero text, we'll just say line height of, maybe let's try 1.5, see how that looks. Okay, so that's a little more space. I think we need a little more actually. It's hard when you're just eyeballing it, because if you have a design file, like a sketch file or an XD file, it'll actually tell you the exact like CSS values in an ideal world. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but as I was increasing the line height, it was also increasing the spacing here. And I wonder if that's how this happened, but I don't want that much spacing, so I'm going to add another line height style on the H1 tag. And so that means I want it to be more specific in this H1 tag. Let me just show you what I mean. Line height, let's just say 1.3 again. And let's see if the line height actually changes on the title tag. And it did. Okay. Sometimes I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I would have to get more specific with this H1 style and nest it inside the hero text so that it would override this line height of 1.75. But I think because it was set on like an actual element instead of just like in the parent element, I think it was specific enough that the line height of 1.3 overrode the line height of hero text. So you can see here, it has a hero text style and it's overwritten by the H1 style. So specificity is a tricky thing sometimes. But hey, this is looking pretty good. Not bad. We need to add some spacing between the logo and the image. So let's guesstimate how much that is. That's about 100 pixels. So let's see what it is on mobile. Oh, it looks like it's the same. It's actually slightly more. It's like 100. Oops. It is 130. 100. Let's say 100. Let's just say 130 for mobile, and then on desktop it is 100. So under the logo, so I guess we could say add the style to the header. So let's do that. We'll do it under global because we'll assume that we want that same amount of space on every page. So for mobile, it was 130 pixels. And then again, we'll do media screen and min width 1024 pixels. So on any width greater than 1024, we'll say margin bottom 100 pixels. Okay, let's see how that works. All right, let's go down to mobile. That just seems like a lot of space. But I guess that's what's in the design. It just seems like a lot to me. I don't know. Oh, actually, I zoomed in to the original size on the mobile. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. So a lot of times for mobile designs, they'll actually design it at 2x because for Retina images on like your iPhone or Android phone, the pixel density is double what it would be on desktop. So that's why a lot of mobile designs are actually double the width. So this is like double the size of a mobile, which is fine, but that means every time I'm measuring a pixel, it's actually double what it needs to be. So I'm actually just going to resize this at 50% of the original. I'm going to resave it. Yeah. So now it is the correct. So yeah, now it's at 375 pixels. So it actually should be, this is 70 pixels. So let's just adjust that. I thought it was weird that the mobile margin was way more than the desktop margin because it's usually the other way around. Like usually, okay, there we go. So now we can see that it has, the header has a bottom margin of 70 pixels. Looks like the logo's smaller on mobile too, but we can deal with that later. Then as we get to desktop, yeah, so you can see it's 70 here for mobile and tablet. Then we get to desktop and it's 100. So that is good. Cool. Okay, so after this is we want to add that register button. Oh, and there's a little box shadow as well. Okay, so register. We have the copy there. Let's make this button. So we'll say, I'm just going to make it an anchor link because that's usually what the button is. So it's an anchor link. We'll say class of, we'll just say CTA, call to action, because there aren't many other buttons here. Okay, so go down here. So we'll say anchor CTA, and then we'll add the styles there. And then we're going to assume that we're gonna have some different styles for desktop and mobile. So we'll just kind of pre-add the little media query there. Okay, so let's take a look at this button. And let's double check the mobile one as well. So it looks like they're the same, meaning they have white background with this purple text, and then the sort of completely rounded corners. And then the font size on mobile is a bit smaller, and it looks like the padding is a bit different. Like it's a longer button on mobile than there is on desktop. So let's start by just making this white round button first. So, okay. Right now this is just a regular link, very bare bones. What we want to do first, I think, is, I don't know if you notice this, but you notice that it's kind of in the inline text along with the rest of the copy. That's because we have this copy here, which is just display inline, which means it just kind of like fits it into like a paragraph. And by default, the anchor text link, the anchor link is just a display. I think it's also display inline. Let's check. I think it's display inline. So if we wanted it to be on its own line, we'd say display block. So now it's on its own line. I'm going to do display inline block because display block, as you can see when I highlight over this, the button's now taking up like 100% of the width, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to do display inline block, which means it will not be the whole width, but it's still displaying sort of inline, but it's a block element. It's a little bit of a middle thing here. So I think what I want to do is add a paragraph tag, and I'm going to move this copy here into that paragraph tag. So this is a little better organizational wise. So now the paragraph kind of makes everything after it come on a new line. So let's do that. Hope that made sense. Okay, so the button is white background. So we'll say background is white. And then the purple color, I don't know if it's the same as the background, but let's see how that looks. So the color, we'll use that purple variable again. Purple. Okay, so looks, I feel like it's a little darker. Right? Am I crazy? Let's try to zoom in. Actually, it does look similar to the back. We'll see how that looks, and we can always tweak it. Oh, Vladimir Dev, thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, it's great to see people from Instagram on here. Let's go zoom to the normal zoom on this. So, okay, we're back at 100 zoom. The next thing we want to do is let's add some padding, because that button needs a little bit of padding. So the top padding, again, we're eyeballing it. It's roughly 20 pixels. So we'll say 20 on the top and bottom. And then what's on the left and the right? Let's see. It's about, oops, I keep doing that. This is very inaccurate. It's about 66. So 66, and then, oh man, I'm getting old. What was the top padding again? Let's see. About 20. So 20 and 66. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally understand, Vladimir. It's, I don't know, we all live in different parts of the world, and it's like bedtime for a lot of people. So, yeah, we'll have to find different times for doing this stuff. Okay, so what I measured for padding on that button was for desktop. So let's just add it in the desktop media query. So top padding was 20 and then 66. So top and bottom is going to be 20, 66 is going to be on the left and the right. Let's see how that looks. There we go. See, that looks more like a button now. Oh, we want to get rid of the default underline styles that the link has as well. So that's something that I usually try to do all the time. So I'm just going to assume any link on the website, assuming that it has like hypothetical more pages. I don't want it to have an underline, so we'll get rid of that. And that's just another sort of default browser style. So we'll say text decorations none to get rid of that underline. There we go. Oh, Vlad's saying, what am I working on? We're trying to build this website from frontendmentor.io. So this Huddle landing page. It's pretty simple. We're actually, I don't know if we're halfway through, but we're getting there. So yeah, thanks for, MS Cleft Witch. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but yeah, thanks for joining the live stream. I really appreciate everyone joining in. So we got rid of the underline for text, for links, and let's kind of go back to this button thing. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get those rounded corners. And this is like the max roundness you could set on an element. And because it's rounded on both mobile and desktop, we'll add the style for mobile, and it'll just carry over to desktop as well. So this roundedness is handled by the border radius property. And I don't know if this is right, but we'll just say, we'll start with 20 pixels. So I'll show you what that means. So you can see now the corners are more round. And that's from the border radius property. So if it's 0, there's no roundness at all. So it's square. So the higher the number, the more round it gets. And then there's like a limit based on how big the button itself is. So let's say 30 pixels for that. But I used to do this thing, I would say 50%. Okay, that's not what I want at all. I'm not sure what the difference is, but somehow if you want just the rounded ends, it needs to be an actual pixel thing. So border radius of 30 pixels. There we go. That's pretty good. And the next thing we want to do is we want to add this sort of little border, box shadow. And I'm trying to guess what the color is for that shadow. It's not gray, it looks like it's a dark purple. So I might use a Sass function called darken to kind of guesstimate what I think that's going to be. So let's just add the shadow first. Box shadow. So how box shadows work is there's a few different parameters. I'll explain what this is in 1 second. Actually, let's do. Okay. Hopefully I wrote that right. Okay, so there's a little bit of a shadow. So the way box shadow works is it takes a few different parameters. I think you can see that. And there are 3 pixel parameters, and then you have a color. So what these control is the position of the shadow. So I believe the first one is top and bottom. Nope, first one is left and right. So you can see when I kind of made it bigger, it's moving to the right. So let's just offset it to the right just a little bit. So let's say 8 pixels. And then the second parameter is up and down. So we're going to make it a bit down and a bit to the right, because I think that's what I saw on the design. And then the last parameter for the pixel stuff is kind of it's called the spread of the shadow. So the higher the number, the more it sort of dissolves. So let's see how that looks. So you can see it's kind of like dissolving, and it's hard to see where the actual end of the shadow is. If you have 0, then it's just like not really a shadow. I guess it's a shadow. It's like a very cartoony solid shadow with a solid line. The higher this spread pixel is, the more it sort of has a fuzzy edge. So we don't want to go too crazy. Let's just do, let's do 10 pixels spread. Let's bring it back in a little bit. No, I think that's okay. And then the last parameter is just the color. So it's the color of the shadow. You can make it any color you want. So let's replace that. And for the color, I used a Sass function called darken, which is really helpful. So it takes this Sass variable that I created earlier, purple, which is this color here, 674 BB1, and then it darkens it by 20%. So you can see when I look back at the actual CSS, it's like 3D2, yada yada, which is darker than the original purple color. So that looks pretty good. Plaid, if media queries with the rest of my CSS, do I prefer that way as opposed to having them in a separate style sheet? That's a good question. I'm kind of just doing it here because it's kind of a simple page, but usually what I would do is I would actually create a new Sass file and call it like variables.scss, and then I would create some variables or some mixins for like the specific widths. So let me just, so I'm not going to go into that here, but maybe for the next one. And also, I'm also sort of working on this responsive design for beginners course with some Sass explanation. And for like more complex sites, I will use, variables and stuff for my media queries. So I hope that answers your question. I'm just doing it this way because it's a pretty simple website. Let's see. Okay, so we got our box shadow here. And the other thing we want to do is I do like to make sure that there is a hover state on all my links. Right now there's not, although it does turn into a cursor, like a hand cursor when you hover over it. So it's not part of the design, but let's think what we would want to happen. So we could change the background color a little bit, or we could make the shadow bigger. That would be kind of fun, actually. So let's just test it in the browser itself. So I will add a hover thing style. So CTA hover. Let's just see what happens if we make the box shadow different. So I'm just going to copy what we have before to start off with. 3D2. Is that right? Yeah, D69. Oh, text transform. You mean like I could make it uppercase? That could be one thing. I feel like that might be a little too jarring for a change. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, MS Koleftwich. Sorry. Let's try to make this shadow a bit bigger. So I'm going to increase the spread, and I'm going to kind of center it a little bit more. I don't know if that's a good idea, but let's also make it darker. This is just for testing. That's really dark. So now let's see what happens. I don't know if I like that. What I might do is make the shadow smaller initially. So I could do like this. Move it back more toward the center of the button, and then also maybe decrease the spread a little bit. Actually, I'd want to increase the spread so it's more gradual. Okay, this is totally experimenting. Let's add that hover thing back. Let's see how that looks. I don't see anything different at all. Oh, because it was... Oh, I decreased it already. So let's go back, make it that other style that we had before. Kind of make it spread out a little bit more, and make it a little darker by decreasing the spread. I don't know, guys. Okay, let's pretend we have some time. CSS button hover effects. Okay. Oh, this looks promising. A collection of hover effects. Ooh, look at that. Whoa, these are crazy. So if you ever like don't know what to style something, you can just like Google it and see, because I'm sure someone else has sort of thought about this. Whoa, these are pretty cool. Okay. What do we want? We don't want to do something too crazy because, I don't know, you don't want it to be like super cheesy. Although this wobble thing is pretty funny. We could do this. We could change the background color. We could change it to pink or something. Let's do a wobble. I kind of like this wobble thing. Okay. So it looks like transform. So it looks like you're doing a little perspective thing here. That's cool. Let's see. Say it says we can translate 3 pixels on active, then it can go back. That's true. Yeah. Let's try that. Okay. So we'll leave the box shadow as is. We'll just have the same box shadow regardless of what it is, if it's hovered or not. So we'll do transform, translate. What were you saying? 3 pixels on active? Okay. And then we also want to add a little transition. This will make it automatically more smooth. So the transition property, and can you see that? The transition property will kind of add this sort of smooth change to different properties that you can change. So it has a couple parameters. The first one is the property that will have the smoothness added to it. So we want it to do it on transform. The second parameter is the time it'll take to do the animation. I just kind of set 300 milliseconds or 0.3 seconds as a default. And the third one is like the speed of the animation change. So ease in out is just another default that I use. So let's add the hover thing. And we'll go transform, translate X, 3 pixel. Oops, is that right? Yeah. Oh, something's not working. I spelled everything right, I think. It's not transforming. Bye, Vlad. Thanks for joining. Why is it not working? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Transform, translate. Oh, I wonder if I need... Oh, guys, I wonder if this is why. No. I guess it needed a display property set for some reason. It's affecting the border radius. Yahoo! CSS is still sometimes a mystery to me. Okay. Let's just add this in. Oh, IBS Syed. I'm sorry for mispronouncing, but thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, and then for the hover, let's do 3 pixels. And I think I just needed to add like display inline block. Let's just add a position relative just for a good measure. Look at that. And for some reason, I need to up the border radius. Cool. Also, let's add a transition. Look at that. Let's make it a little bit faster. Maybe a little faster. That's kind of cool. Cool. Thank you, Saida, for that suggestion. There we go. Why is the transition not working? Oh, transition. I think I confused myself. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, let's look back at the design. Looks like the padding that I made is a bit too much. Am I zoomed correctly? Looks like I am. It looks like in the design, the total button height is about 56. And here it's 68. So I think the padding just needs to be a bit shorter. It could be because the line height is greater than the actual pixels. Yeah, see, so I'm gonna bring the line height to 1, because before it was using the default 1.3 that I'd set on the body. And so you can see it kind of makes the the height of the text greater than the actual like text itself. It adds a little bit more space. Sometimes you want that. I think for this button, let's bring the line height to 1. Then it'll be equal to the font size. There we go. Hey, looks pretty good. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. And I think there's a bit more space under here. So this is about 28 pixels or so. Looks like the paragraph by default has 16 pixels under it. I think what I'll do is add a top margin to the CTA as well. Let's check the mobile one as well. Yeah, so it's about 20, let's say 26 pixels of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say margin top 26 pixels, and it looks like it's the same for mobile and desktop. And let me move this property up here. This is just kind of the order of properties that I like to do. Like display, position, then margin, then like the background colors, and then like the fancy like transform stuff. That's just my own sort of preference, but it kind of helps me be able to find styles when I'm looking for stuff. Okay, that looks pretty good. Check it on mobile. Okay, mobile, we need to add the padding and stuff. Let's see. Oh, right, because we'd only added the padding on the desktop. So let's do that here. And let's measure, quote unquote, measure what the padding is for mobile. And the border radius might need to be changed for mobile as well, I'm not sure. So it's about 16 pixels on top. And then I think what we actually might do for mobile is we'll just set like a width. So we'll do that in a second, but let's do the 16 pixels. We'll just do it all around for mobile. Okay. Border radius looks all right. Now let's check the width of that button. So this width is about 200. So we'll add a min width of 200 pixels. And then text align of center. Does that looks pretty good, I think. Although the desktop button, how big is the desktop button? It's 200 also, so I think that's okay. So let's see how it changes. Yeah, looks good. All right. We'll need to polish up the mobile styles too. I know people say mobile first, but like I always just do the desktop styles first for some reason. Maybe because I just use desktop by default. Okay, so the last section, we're just going to add these social icons. And they didn't give us SVGs because you can use things like Font Awesome. I haven't used Font Awesome for a while, to be honest, but let's see. Oh. Do you need to log in now? Whoa. Oh, interesting. Okay. So we want social, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook. And it was just the regular one, and we'll add the white round border ourselves with CSS. So it's just the F. Whoa, look at that. This is, man, they got fancy since last time I used them. Okay, because I moved from Font Awesome version 4 to version 5. Interesting. Okay, so start using this icon. Cool. So you copy this, and then we're going to add it to our markup down here. So it's going to be in the footer. So we'll do this. And I'm pretty sure we need to download the Font Awesome like CSS. Here, we'll just download it ourselves. They have pretty good documentation for this. Okay, so we're going to download that. Let's see. I think I just need the CSS file. So this is what we got here. So this is the Font Awesome folder. It has a lot of stuff. Jeez. But I think I just need the CSS file. So let's do that. Font Awesome, all.css. So let's take that. And then I think I just need to put it here. Okay. So I will add another reference to a style sheet. So I'm going to add it before the style.css. So this is Font Awesome. I'm just going to add a little comment here. And the style.css is our custom. Okay. Is this it? Something is not working. So the font family seems right, but it doesn't look like it's inheriting any of the classes. Okay. Let's look back at the documentation. Okay, so we included this. I should probably read the directions, right? Okay, all.css has the core styling plus all the icon styles you'll need. Yahoo! And the web fonts folder contains all the typefaces. Oh, okay, so I didn't do this. Copy the entire web fonts folder and the all.css file, which I did this. Didn't copy web fonts folder. Okay, and then add the reference to the all.css, which I did. Okay, so I was just missing some files here. So they said web fonts. So we'll copy that. I guess we'll just copy it here. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so these are actual font files. Okay. I probably should have known this, but so this is basically how Font Awesome works. It's icons, but it's like a custom font. So to load the custom font family, you need the actual like font files. So we're hosting these files on our website. So you can see this is the landing page files. So now I added the web fonts folder and it's loading all the font files. Then we need the CSS because that's what sort of shows you, that's what sort of tells you what to load. So you can see here, these are all the styles, but these styles utilize the custom font that we added. And also, sorry, I missed the Zavi. Thanks for the follow. I really appreciate it. Cool. Just out of curiosity, are most of you following me on Instagram? Is that how you found me, or like are there other places that you found this stream? Just wondering. Okay, so we added the CSS for Font Awesome. We now have the web fonts, all the font files. Let's see if this changed anything. Oh, yes. Love it. So now you can see the Facebook things loading. So let's just copy the markup for the other ones. So Twitter and Instagram. Let's see, where are we? Twitter. So again, we just have the regular Twitter icon. man, they really got fancy. I started using them probably like, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So they've gotten a lot more fancy with their website and stuff, which is awesome. And then Instagram is the last one. Copy. Cool. All right. So now if we reload, we have all our icons here. Okay, so 2 things we want to do with the icons. We want to put the ring, the border circle around it, and then we need to add a bit of spacing. And then of course we want to do our little active state, like hover state. So let's take a general measurement of how big these circles are. So it's about, this is 40. Yeah, so they're about 40 pixels for height and width. And then between the icons, it's about, we'll say 16 pixels. So 40 width, 16 pixels of spacing. So what I'm going to do is I will, let's go back to our homepage. Actually, let's add this under global because, you know, we're just going to pretend that there's multiple pages on this site. So if I want more pages than just the homepage to use these styles, then I want to put it in the global Sass file just for easier access. So then, oh cool, Chronic, you said you saw my post on Instagram, started following. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so to add the style, we want to do, I'm just gonna full screen this bad boy. I like having a split editor so then I can have my markup on this side and then I can have my styles on this side so I can see everything at the same time. So let's go back down to our markup here. So in the footer, we have our I elements, and then we'll just say class of fab. I'm assuming that class just means font awesome. So, okay, what we want to do is we want to add the border. It seems like it was pretty thin, so we'll just say 1 pixel for now. Solid white. And then width is going to be 40. Height will also be 40. See how that looks. Cool. So now you see they have the width and the height. I want to center it, so let's do text align is center. But we also want to vertically center it. So actually, maybe what we should do is, do I want to do, would Flexbox work on this? Let's see. Oh, hooray, it worked. So Flexbox is an awesome way to center your content both vertically and horizontally. And I want to add those just at the top. It's so much easier because before I would have had to add like a wrapper div around it and then position the content absolutely and then use like left 50% and then translate X negative 50% to like center it vertically and horizontally. So this is just way easier. Okay, sweet. And yeah, like they're stacking now, but we'll fix that in 1 second. We want to do the border radius. And the border radius 50%, if it is a width and height of equal, it'll make it a circle. Okay, now the reason these are stacking, I'm not quite sure. If I turn Flexbox off, yeah, it's something to do with Flexbox. But what we want to do is we want them to be side by side and on the right for desktop. Then on mobile, we want them to be centered. So let's use some Flexbox for that. So Flexbox, just like CSS Grid, you add the property on the footer element, the parent element, which is the footer element in this case. So we'll do display flex. And then for mobile, we want it to be centered. So we'll say justify content center. And then again, we'll add another media query for desktop. And then we want it to be on the right side for desktop, so we'll do flex end. So that should put it on the right, which is the end of the row on Flexbox. Woohoo! And let's make sure it's centered on mobile. So if we bring this down, it is centered. Okay. Yeah, Flexbox is so awesome. Oh, Kelsey, that's your name? Thank you. Yeah, Flexbox is so cool. Okay, so we need to add that spacing between them. So let's see. What I could do is add a margin on the left. And then, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add a left margin to each element. I'm sorry, margin right. So margin after the element of, I think we said 16 pixels. So there we go. So now we have the space. Oh, magic and code. You saw a link in the Frontend Mentor Slack channel. Awesome. Yeah, I had tweeted out that I was doing this live stream, and I tagged the Frontend Mentor guy, Matt. I don't remember his last name, but so I think he said he was going to share it in his Slack channel, which is awesome. Okay, so we have the spacing that we want, but the thing about adding a margin to all the elements is that it's adding it to all of them, which means it's not going to, so you can see here, this is the main container. And then the body, we have this padding added. It's purple, so it's a bit hard to see. But you can see that the Instagram icon has that extra space. And usually you want things to go all the way to the edge, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that right margin that we had added from just the last element. So what you can do is there's this CSS selector. So we'll say last child. And we'll say margin right of 0. So, okay, so you saw that when I reloaded it, it moved back over to the edge. So now they all have a right margin except for Instagram, which is perfect. It's exactly what we want. And the added benefit is it goes all the way to the edge on desktop. And then on mobile, you know that it's going to be perfectly centered, because if we didn't have it, it would be just kind of slightly to the left, which, you know, maybe it's not a big deal, but if you want things to be kind of perfectly centered, you would not want that margin. So this looks pretty good. Let's add some spacing between these icons and the button. And I guess we'll start centering stuff on mobile too. So let's do this. We'll say this is about 60 pixels tall on mobile. And then what is it on desktop? So on desktop, it's probably less. Yeah, so I'm measuring it to the image because I think that's what's going to be the tallest element above the social. So 26 on desktop, and I believe it was 60 on mobile. So how do we want to do this? Usually I like to kind of keep things consistent and only add a margin after the element, meaning I'll only do margin right or margin bottom to position things. But so what I could do is I could add the margin bottom to the main, and then I know that it'll be the same on mobile and desktop. Because if let's say I only added the margin bottom to the hero image because that's how it looks on desktop, that margin would be between the image and the text on mobile, and there wouldn't be the margin above the social icons. So we will add our margin bottom to main. Let's see, where do we want to add that? Probably on homepage. So we'll just add it here. So margin bottom on mobile, it was 60 pixels. I'll just copy that, and then we'll do here, margin bottom of, I think it was just 16, right? Let's check. 26. Okay. And then I'm just going to reorder my CSS properties the way I like, because I'm slightly OCD sometimes when it comes to them. Let's reload this. It's not working. Why did this not work? Oh, I added it to the body, duh. I should add it to the main element. There we go. Okay, now let's see if it works. There we go. So now we have that spacing. Cool. You guys, we're all like almost done with this. I'm pretty excited how much work we got done today. Oh, Sayeda, you found my Instagram, read my Medium posts. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote a post on absolute positioning. Magic and Code, you said you saw a course about responsive design. You learned that any touch area should be at least 48 by 48 pixels. Could be that the social media icon is 40 pixels with 8 pixel padding, so total 48. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, you want things on mobile to be clickable, like kind of the size of a finger, because otherwise people like will not be able to click it. Let's see how big this actually is on mobile. It's actually less. It's 28 by 26. So, I mean, the 48 by 48 does make a lot of sense in terms of like size, because I think it would be a bit harder. So what we could do is to make it more like easier to use on mobile. These are also kind of close together. So let's just make them, let's make it a bit bigger. Let's do it, guys. Let's go back here. Where'd the icons go? Oh, I did it on global. I forgot. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. It's just like a user thing. Since there's a 16 pixel margin, you're thinking 16/2? Do you mean 16 divided by 2? Or, sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying. But at any rate, let's just increase the width to 48 and 48. Oh, 16 pixel for the margin right, you mean? So now it's bigger here. I think the 16 pixel margin for the between the icons seems pretty good to me. Oh, Lewis says the width they used for the challenge you're doing is 1440. Okay. Yeah. Do you mean the size of the container, or okay, let's finish these icons. So I think that's a little more clickable, wouldn't you say? But yeah, honestly, like, I think there's probably a lot of like accessibility issues that we just don't really think about. I think there's a lot of best practices not everyone follows, but I think it's good to try to if you can. Okay, so now we have nicer, bigger, easier clickable social icons. So, whoa, did we finish? Yeah, I guess the social part was the last stuff. Let's go back to the mobile design, because there are some things we didn't do. So for this, we need to, I believe, center the text on mobile. Yeah. And it looks like the font size is a bit smaller as well. The font, so it looks like the logo's smaller. The text size is for the title is a bit smaller. I think it looks the same for the body text, and the button is smaller. And we're going to keep the social icons big to be more clickable. So that's going to just be different from the design. So let's start with the logo. So logo for mobile is about let's say 120. So let's just adjust that. Where was the logo? It was in the header. Oh, I didn't even put it in the CSS. Okay, let's go back to, so the header and then the image element in the header has different sizes. So we'll just nest it in here. We'll say the direct child using the angle bracket. So this means an image element, which is a direct child of header, will have the styles that I'm about to write. So the width we said for mobile is about 120 pixels. And then for desktop, we're just going to copy this again. Width is 200. So since we have the width set in the CSS, we can just delete it from the markup. Okay, let's check and see how that looks. All right, looks good. I feel like there's not as much space under here as I have. What is this? This is about 70. I think that's what I had. Yeah, 70. I don't know, it just looks bigger. Not sure why. I'm not gonna sweat it though. So this is 120 pixels wide, and then as you get bigger, the logo gets bigger, and it's 200. Okay, cool. What's the next thing we want to do for mobile? Let's just use the emulator thing. I like using that. Let's say iPhone 6, 7, and 8. So it's 375. Width. Oops, crap. Okay, we need to adjust the spacing on top for mobile. So this is only, this might have been because I had set this before I had divided the design by 2. So it's only, let's say 40 pixels on top. What did I set this at? 70. So it should be 60 on top for desktop, and then it's only 38. Let's say 40. So we need to adjust all the padding that we had added earlier at the beginning. Yeah, I was wondering why this was like so big. I guess we'll say 40 all around for mobile, and then we'll do the 60, 80, etc. for desktop. Okay, that looks way better. Okay, you don't want too much space. And then under here, I know it says 70, but I'm just gonna do a little bit less. Let's say 50. Let's see how this looks. I think that's a bit closer if I just eyeball it. Okay, I'm gonna do that. So we're gonna decrease the margin bottom of the header on mobile to 50. And I believe it was in global. Yeah, 70 just seems, it's a little much. Okay, that seems better. Then we will go down to the text, and the font size is a bit smaller too. We'll say about 20. What is it right now? It is 32. And this is the H1 style. So let's find out where that one is. I think it was in the homepage file. Here we go. Oh, we didn't even add a responsive stuff for this. So this will be the desktop styles for fonts. And I think we said 20. Okay. How's that look? That seems like it should be bigger. 20. Let's say font size 22, and then let's increase the line height as well. I like 1.5. 22 pixels and 1.5 line height for mobile. And then when we go to desktop, the line height will go back down to 1.3. Yeah, I need to center this stuff. Let's center stuff. So everything needs to be centered. The text needs to be centered. The button needs to be centered. Social icons are already centered. So I think if we add text align center, oh, well, that was easy. That was for the home page on the hero text element. So let's go to the home page. Here we go, hero text element, text align center, and we don't want it to center on desktop. So I'm just going to do text align left. That's pretty good. Let's add a little more spacing here. So this is about 70 pixels between the image and then the title. So what we're going to do is on the hero image, we'll add 70 pixels just on mobile. So we're adding 70 pixels of margin on the bottom for mobile, then we're getting rid of it for desktop. But another way of doing that would be, and again, like I try to do min width all the time, but if I just wanted to target mobile, we could say max width 640, and then we would only have the 70 pixels. Then this would just go away. It wouldn't even exist for desktop. Let me show you what I mean. So here's the hero image. That's where we're adding this margin bottom. So you can see now it has a margin bottom of 70. But if I load the desktop version, you can see here there's no margin at all, and the CSS doesn't show up at all for the margin bottom thing. But you know, once I do this, you can see there's a margin bottom. Maybe I should do it for tablet as well. So instead of 640, we'll just say 1024, 1023. Okay, so margin bottom. Let's see if we keep it on. This is about what a tablet width would be. Okay, the margin bottom's still there. And then it disappears when you go to desktop. Oh yeah, Magic and Code, the button font looks smaller in mobile. You are correct. Let's see what that was. Yeah, this is definitely smaller. Let's see. The actual font size is 16 pixels. The design looks like it's honestly like 12 pixels or maybe 13. That just seems really small. It looks like it's 13. I think I read somewhere that like you shouldn't go under 14 pixels for mobile fonts. So let's see. Yeah, more padding as well. I think just, again, to be more clickable, like if we're going by the 48 pixel sort of guideline for clickability on mobile, I think sometimes mobile designs tend to make things a bit smaller than I think they should be. So I think I may actually just keep the font size as is, and then maybe add a touch more padding like you were saying, Magic and Code. So that element that we want to affect is the CTA element, and that's on, is that on the home page? Yeah. So, okay, so we had already added padding on the desktop width stuff. So let's just kind of increase the padding here for mobile. And I'm just going to test it in the browser first because it's kind of easier that way. Look at that. I'm going to increase the min width as well. I think that looks a bit more better. So min width for mobile is going to be 250 and the padding is going to be 20. Yeah, I think this will look better. 250 and 20 pixels for padding. Let's reload. make sure everything works. All right, so you can see and the 250 min width is affecting the desktop thing. So I don't know, let's make it a bit less long for desktop. Let's go back to 200 for desktop. Just because, you know, it's a bit easier to click things. Okay, so now it's 200 pixels, but then it's a bit longer on mobile, which I think is good. Okay. Okay, the last thing we want to do is we actually need to make these social icons links, and we want to add some active states to them. So do this. There might be a faster way than what I'm doing to make these links, but there we go. Okay, let's make sure they look okay. Oh, dang, what happened? I think what happened was... Oh, it's because, I know why. Yeah. I wrapped the I elements in the links, and I think I had added, let's see, where did I add those margins? I added the margin right on the I element, and I think for some reason, because I'm wrapping it. Okay, yeah, this is why. Because I said last child on, so the I element last child will have a margin right of 0. But because I've now wrapped each of the I elements in an anchor element, that means each of them is the last I element in their parent. So what I need to do is change this. I need to do a few things because obviously it's not blue like that. But let's do the margin stuff first. So what I need to do is add this margin property to the anchor element. So because the anchor element is a direct child of the footer, we'll just do direct child selector and anchor. Then we'll add those styles there. Okay. And then let's see, reload. Okay, so now the margins have been fixed. Now let's figure out the color. Oh yeah, Sayeda says text decoration. That could be something. I think I had already removed the text decoration in the global styles, but it's the color because, let's see. I need to set the actual color here. I'll just do it here. Color white. There we go. So now it's back to white. And the reason it had gone blue like that was because it's again one of those sort of default styles that each browser comes with. So, you know, by default, it'll make the links blue and text decoration underline them. I had removed the underline, but I forgot to make the color, to reset the color. Magic and code, you could possibly decrease the size of the icons and add padding to the anchor element. So the actual touch area is at least 48. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Although I think that the whole thing looks like it's clickable because the whole thing's an anchor, so I think we might be okay on that part. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like you can decrease like the font, the icon itself, but then make sure that the anchor includes all of it. But I think we're okay on that. Let's add our little active states. So I kind of liked what we had done with the register button. We did the transform, but let's make the social icons kind of go up a little bit when you hover over them. So we'll add all these styles on the anchor. So we'll go hover. So initially we're going to go transform, translate Y 0. And this is because when we hover, we want to move up, which I believe would be like, -3 pixels. So let's make sure that works. Okay, look at that. Let's add a little transition so it's smoother. Transition. And then we want the property to affect, we want the property that we want to animate be the transform property. And then we'll do, I think it was 100 milliseconds that we done for the button. So we'll do the same thing there. And the easing property, meaning how smooth the animation, we'll do ease in out. Okay, let's see how that looks. Hey, look at that. And I think we're okay like not doing a box shadow like this because these are like, you know, outlined buttons. They're not like solid. So I don't think they really, it would make sense to put a box shadow on them. But, oh yeah, the last thing we want to do is we probably want this to be a link if this was a real website. Let's go back to our markup. We'll just add a little anchor here. I'm just doing slash because that will kind of load your home page no matter what page you're on. Okay, so then this affected the styles of the image. Let's go back and check that out. So it's probably under global header. Yeah, so now because before we had made this direct descendant selector here, let's try this. Hopefully this will work. Yay! Man, okay, we did a pretty good job here. So I think we're gonna kind of wrap up the stream. If you have any questions that I could sort of try to answer before we wrap up, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah. You know, I do want to kind of do these streams more often, so I'm hoping maybe every week, although I'm going to be traveling for the next couple weeks, so it'll have to be when I come back probably, or I'll try to reschedule. But, you know, maybe we can do another Frontend Mentor template. I think they also have like a beta platform, so they might have some additional designs there. But otherwise, we might next time just try to tackle one of these intermediate designs. Let's look at this one. But yeah, feel free if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I think we're just going to kind of wrap up the stream. But thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you joining in, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you had some fun. And yeah, we will see you next time.